Today, I want to talk about potassium. Despite its funny name, it's one of the most important elements in the world. It's used in many different things. Potassium was first believed to have been mixed with animal fat to form the first soaps. It is one of the ingredients in Gatorades and bananas that helps replenish our energy and electrolytes. It's also used to make glass stronger. It's used in fireworks and gunpowder. In fact, in 1788, there were 250 different factories that specialized in making potassium for the Revolutionary War. Potassium was so important that the first ever United States patent out of 10 million, the first one, signed by George Washington, was an efficient method of potassium production. Today, many of the foods that we eat are also fertilized with potassium. It helps strengthen the plant's ability to resist disease and plays an important role in increasing crop yields and overall quality. Potassium also protects the plant when the weather is cold or dry, strengthening its root system and preventing wilt. Without potassium, the world would definitely collapse, and there are too many people and industries that depend on it. So why is potassium so important? Let's take a look at some of the properties of potassium that make it so useful in many different industries. First off, potassium is an alkaline metal, and because it is in the first column of the periodic table, it only has one valence electron. Like most alkaline metals, potassium easily reacts with elements around and is keen to losing its electrons to complete its outer shell. This is an example of pure potassium reacting with water. When potassium is placed in water, it creates potassium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. The reaction is exothermic, releasing a lot of heat. Because of the fact that potassium likes to lose its electrons so much, it's actually not found in nature. It exists more commonly in its ion form. Some of its more common forms include potassium carbonate, potassium hydroxide, and potassium chloride. When potassium is in the form of these above-mentioned ionic compounds, it's called potash, because that's quite literally what these compounds are. When you take wood and burn it and collect its acids, you get potassium carbonate, or the other forms of potassium, depending on what type of wood you burn. Potassium was actually first discovered by Sir Humphry Davy through electrolysis. He took potash, and here was a setup of his electrolysis system. When the potassium carbonate or potash was dissolved in the water, it separated into potassium and carbonate ions. As we learned in chemistry class, potassium is very soluble. When the voltage is applied to the solution, the potassium is attaches to the cation and the carbonate attaches to the anion. Through this, Sir Humphry Davy was able to isolate potassium, discovering a new element. He decided to name it after the substance he discovered it from, potash. Obviously, burning trees isn't a viable method to produce potassium today, and because we rely on it so much, we have come up with different ways and methods to produce it. One current solution is to use potassium deposits deep in the earth. Due to old rivers rising and falling, there are rich potassium deposits under the Utah desert. To harvest this, scientists have been using an interesting method. Here's a diagram of what they do. Water is first pumped into underground wells where the potassium deposits are located. The potassium dissolves into the water and then is brought up to the surface. As the water evaporates, a precipitate of potassium chloride is formed and is left for collection at the bottom of the pool. Through this, we are able to harvest most of the potassium that we use today.